That's for the score. Touchdown, Ohio.
The rocket-armed quarterback versus the struggling secondary, the immovable defense against an injury-riddled attack, the rising program against the rebuilding power. Combine these ingredients and what you get is the 1985 battle between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the nation's #1 team, the Iowa Hawkeyes. But in the world of college football, anything is possible. And on the rain-soaked field of Ohio Stadium, the 1985 Buckeyes stormed their way into Ohio State lore.
The 1985 Big Ten battle between the Ohio State Buckeyes and #1 Iowa is a true college football classic and one of the greatest games in Ohio State history.
Harmon, go!
To me, that game was the perfect football game. Never was that stadium more alive than that day.
This team was just really ready to play, and the coaching effort in this was just so evident.
It was excellent coaching, excellent play calling, and I think it was excellent execution of our plays, both offensively and defensively.
Everybody wanted to have the ball when the time came, which is great. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Our linebackers that day, wow, Chris Spielman and Pepper Johnson, each of them finished the afternoon with 19 tackles.
The thing I remember most about it was the rain.
It's a torrential downpour, everyone's going crazy, and you got the #1 team in the nation on the ropes.
When you're going against a team ranked #1 in the country with the talent that Iowa had, Chuck Long, a Heisman candidate, Ronnie Harmon, who is a tough guy, a defense that swarms to the football, not to mention Hayden Fry, probably one of the slyest coaches in all of college football. You've got to be prepared.
In the paper, they said Chuck Long was going to throw for 1,000 yards against us.
This is a #1 team in the nation coming here to Columbus. We're stopping them defensively. We're moving the ball and scoring offensively. And we need to keep this going.
Once we showed that we could put points on the board, the whole aura of the #1 ranking just seemed to fade into black.
The Buckeyes have upset the #1 ranked Iowa Hawkeyes 22-13.
But Ohio State's rainy day masterpiece was a one-time-only performance in a season marked by peaks and valleys. In fact, just days before the team's first game, the team suffered a devastating blow when All-American tailback Keith Byars suffered a serious injury in practice.
When Keith broke his foot, we got down a little bit, and the mood of the team kind of changed going into the season because we weren't sure whether he'd be able to recover.
For that moment, you're like, wow, this is our All-American Heisman Trophy candidate. It's gone.
Byars' Heisman candidacy was built on the back of his 1984 breakout performance, one of the greatest individual seasons in the history of Ohio State football. The bruising yet versatile Byars led the nation in scoring and all-purpose running and set a then Ohio State season record with over 1,700 yards rushing and 22 touchdowns. The pinnacle point in his brilliant campaign came against Illinois when he led the Buckeyes back from a 24-0 deficit with an almost superhuman 274-yard, 5-touchdown display. His last score gave Ohio State a 45-38 victory and forever secured his place in the annals of Buckeye history. By the end of the season, Byars was named the Big Ten's MVP and everybody's All-American. Only one honor eluded him.
Keith finished second to Doug Flutie in the Heisman Trophy voting in 1984 and was an odds-on favorite to probably win the Heisman Trophy in 1985. And I would venture to say, had he been healthy and been able to play just as well in 85 as he did in 84, he would have won the Heisman Trophy.
Now, when a freshman linebacker that might start the first game of the year gets hurt, that's not a big deal. But when a Heisman Trophy frontrunner gets hurt going into the season, now that's a big deal.
The thing you lose with Keith Byars is not just his rushing yards, but his leadership on the field.
He's a tremendous leader in addition to just being a great football player. So we knew we had to do it without him, which was going to be tough.
The burden of replacing Byars in the backfield fell on backup tailback John Woolridge, a challenge he embraced.
I thought I was a good back, and I thought I should have been starting anyway. I know you will get a lot of people that argue that, but I thought I was the best back there. So when I did have the opportunity, I took advantage of it.
John was a fighter, man, and John always walked around with a chip on his shoulder in that respect that, look, just because Keith's down, what do you got here, chopped liver? No, you got J-Dub coming through, and I'm going to show you that I can do it, and he certainly did. And I know that Earl really loved John because he was a gamer. John was tough as they came.
With Woolridge in for Byars, plus a new starting quarterback and a rebuilt offensive line, the 1985 Buckeyes would need a total team effort to compensate for the loss of their injured star.
When he got hurt, your Chris Carters of the world, your John Ward, they had to step up. Your George Cooper, your Jim Crusadas, they had to step their level of play up because, you're losing the best player in college football.
You see us coming together more as a team, guys relying more on their abilities instead of thinking that Keith's going to break a big one. So guys took pride in what they did, especially the line. They knew they had to block a little bit harder for us. The running backs had to run a little bit harder. The receivers had to block or catch a little bit better than they did. And we did. We came together as a team.
The rebuilt offense proved surprisingly effective. And after 7 games, the Buckeyes led the Big Ten in scoring. But their biggest challenge yet was about to arrive. The nation's #1 team, the Iowa Hawkeyes. When star running back Keith Byars went down with a preseason foot injury, it looked like the 1985 Buckeyes Big Ten title hopes were all but blown away. But the team regrouped, and behind an unexpectedly potent offense, they fought their way to a 6-1 record and a #8 national ranking. Now they would face their toughest test yet, the top-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes. But before the battle began, the wounded Byars, who re-injured his foot in a comeback attempt the previous week, tried to lift his team to victory, if only in spirit.
I remember Keith talking about how he doesn't get to play, but we do. And don't take that for granted, and how he wished so bad he could play, and about how can this team, Iowa, come into the horseshoe and be favored to beat us.
He talked from his heart to the team about what it means and what the opportunities were and what the game would be and everything. I mean, he felt it.
And it wasn't staged. It was just, it was his frustration and his love for Ohio State and all that coming together and exploding. But it was so sincere, and that was great leadership.
Riding Byars' emotional wave, the underdog Buckeyes set out to take down the Hawkeyes. On the very first play from scrimmage, linebacker Chris Spielman gave Iowa quarterback Chuck Long a taste of things to come.
Long's pass is almost intercepted.
And when the defense stuffed Iowa running back Ronnie Harmon on 3rd and 2, it was obvious that the Buckeyes were not backing down. On offense, Ohio State opened aggressively as well, going right after the Iowa secondary.
We felt that if they did have a weakness on defense, it was in their defensive backfield. They had a good safety, but their cornerbacks were not as talented as some of the others around the league, and that we thought we could take advantage of that. We didn't think that they had anybody that could really match up with Chris Carter, and we also felt that they didn't give our other receivers a lot of respect, so we planned to come out throwing.
3 completions by Crusadas moved the ball to the Iowa 9. The drive culminated with a 28-yard Rich Spangler field goal, the first opening quarter points scored on Iowa all year. On their next possession, the Buckeyes returned to the air, and 2 completions to Chris Carter again moved the ball deep into Iowa territory. But the drive ran out of steam, and this time Spangler's kick sailed wide. The Buckeye defense quickly offered another opportunity when Chris Spielman intercepted a wayward Chuck Long pass. But the Iowa turnover was promptly returned, and the #1 Hawkeyes seemed to be dodging the Buckeyes' bullet-fast start. However, the Iowa interception left the Hawkeyes in horrible field position, and when they failed to get a first down, punter Craig Kostrobala came in.
Kostrobala 9 yards deep in his end zone. It's blocked.
You always think about making a big play, do something to make an impact during the game, and all of us on defense, I mean, that's all we think about, what can we do to set a tone or to turn the table to make an impact, if it's on defense, if it's on special teams, whatever it may be.
When Sonny blocked that punt, even though We didn't recover it. It went out of the end zone, and we only got 2 points. That was a huge play for the team, but for the offense too, knowing that, hey, the defense is getting the job done. They're doing what they need to do. The special teams are making their plays. It's up to us to put points on the board or at least keep their offense off the field.
It wouldn't take long for the offense to get their chance. William White's interception on the next possession started the second quarter and gave the Buckeyes prime field position. On their second play from scrimmage, the Buckeyes broke the big one.
Johnny Woolridge. There he goes.
When I handed the ball in turn, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. And John hit it so quick, the safety was totally out of position. I mean, John was through it and bam. He was 15 yards down the field, and that safety was turning and running.
The run was Woolridge's first of the day after a severe rib injury suffered the week before made even breathing a chore.
I was beat up so badly, there was a question as to whether I was even going to play. My ribs were heavily bandaged up, taped up, and wrapped up, and I had a flak jacket like quarterbacks generally wear. And I was very immobile, but also I didn't want to let my team down, and I knew that they needed me. So I looked at Earl Bruce and I said, yeah, I'm ready to play. And he sent me into the game. He said, you go ahead and this is your play. And at that point, I knew that I got to do this. I got to get this done. We have to do this. And John, let's go.
Woolridge's run lifted the Buckeyes to a 12-0 lead and put a major dent into Iowa's armor of invincibility.
Once we showed that we could put points on the board, the whole aura of the #1 ranking just seemed to fade into black, into the black sky of the night.
And when cornerback Greg Rogan intercepted Long's next pass, the nation's #1 quarterback was beginning to look bewildered.
When you have a linebacker pick you off and 2 corners pick you off, you got to think, okay, where can I go next with the football? They're covering every part of the field.
They didn't know what we were doing on defense, but we were stopping them. They didn't know what we were doing on offense. They couldn't stop us. And I think they were thoroughly confused and frustrated on the sideline, and it showed.
The Buckeyes turned the Rogan pick into 3 more points. But with the half winding down, the moribund Hawkeye offense finally came to life. On 4th and goal from the 3, Ronnie Harmon capped an 89-yard drive as he outraced the Buckeyes to the corner of the end zone.
Touchdown, Iowa!
With less than a minute remaining, the Hawkeyes were on the board. And now, in spite of Ohio State's dominating performance, the Hawkeyes trailed only by 8, 15-7. But as they hit the halftime lockers, the Buckeyes felt completely in command.
Usually when a team scores going into the half, you go into the locker room saying, oh man, they got the momentum now. Okay, we can't let them get it from us. We got to come out and start fast. But it's like they got lucky and scored.
We knew that these guys had a potential fast strike offense. We knew that they had some pride themselves, that they would certainly make an attempt to come back. But I don't think that anyone really believed that we could lose control of that football game by halftime.
As the second half of the 1985 battle between the Ohio State Buckeyes and the top-ranked Iowa Hawkeyes kicked off, the Buckeyes took the ball with a surprising 15-7 lead. But the 8-point margin gave little indication of how the Buckeyes had manhandled the heavily favored Hawkeyes. And just as they had in the opening half, the Buckeyes started the second with a precision passing attack.
We had a pretty solid passing game at the time. We knew that we could throw the ball against anybody, and we also knew that if need be, we can control the ball both through passing and through our running game.
With air and ground attacks working hand in hand, the Buckeyes began to eat up huge chunks of yardage almost at will. But as the field got shorter, the Iowa defense clamped down. And when kicker Mike Spangler missed another short field goal, some of the Buckeyes found themselves fighting feelings of fear.
I was scared to death because you never know what can happen. You know, the football's not round, so anything can happen.
Those fears were further flamed when their next possession quickly ended in an Iowa interception and the ball on the Buckeye 19-yard line. The turnover created a potentially huge turning point, and as the Hawkeyes took the field, the echoes of the horseshoe came to life, willing the defense to hold.
like that stadium, it never shut up. It was just alive. The rain kept coming, and it seemed the more the rain fell, the louder they got, and it was just like we were all together.
This is Harmon, down to about...
You know, we were all counting on each other. We needed the crowd. You know, we needed the defense. We all got together and made it one of those special days.
On 4th and 1 from the 10, the Hawkeyes turned to tailback Ronnie Harmon.
Hawkeyes have got 7 seconds with which to get this play off. They're running out of time. Harmon, no!
That series for our defense was a key to that game because that's as good as a turnover, and it's uplifting for the defense and usually devastating for the opposing offense because you stop them on 4th and 1.
The stop was also a statement by a Buckeye defense that had taken some hits during the course of the season, especially through the air.
In retrospect, we remember William White and Sonny Gordon and Terry White and Greg Rogan as a really solid defensive core. But at that time, they were still pretty green.
Our secondary was young, and I think we were a bunch of sophomores and one junior with Sonny Gordon.
So we had a young secondary out there, and we had to go out and prove ourselves by just being physical.
The secondary's maturation was not without growing pains, as several Big Ten quarterbacks lit up the young Buckeye defenders. Before the Iowa game, pundits predicted yet another airborne assault, this time by the nation's leading passer, Chuck Long.
A Columbus newspaper on Saturday morning came out with a column predicting that Ohio State was going to have a long afternoon. It was a very uncomplimentary column on Ohio State's defensive secondary.
And in the paper, they said Chuck Long was going to throw for 1,000 yards against us. You know, we were too small. We were the Smurfs. They used to call us the Smurfs back there. And we kind of took offense to that.
But on Saturday afternoon, the secondary struck back at their skeptics with 2 interceptions and a blocked punt.
Field complete. This is...
And with the game now in the 4th quarter, they struck again.
A fumble at the 30-yard line. Let's see who's got it.
Safety Terry White's devastating hit knocked the ball loose and gave the Buckeyes the ball back deep inside Hawkeye territory. It was an opportunity that the offense was determined to convert. Freshman Vince Workman, who started the game for the ailing John Woolridge, carried the ball to the Iowa 4. 2 plays later, he hit pay dirt.
This is Workman behind Cooper's block. Touchdown!
With their national title hopes washing away, the Hawkeyes made a desperate attempt to get back in the game.
Long play action, zeroing in downfield, complete.
A quick scoring drive brought the Hawkeyes to within 9.
Touchdown, Iowa!
And minutes later, Iowa was again in the red zone. But any more scores would be strongly denied. And when Chris Spielman intercepted his second pass of the day, the game was all but over. All that remained for the Buckeyes and their fans was to bask in the glow of victory, a victory that recalled memories of another historic Buckeye upset.
This is the first time in 17 years that a #1 team had come into Ohio State to face the Buckeyes. The last time that had happened was in 1968 when Purdue came into Columbus, and Ohio State, of course, was also victorious that afternoon.
And while the 1985 Buckeyes could not repeat the national title run of 1968, Ohio State's upset victory over Iowa will forever be remembered as one of the greatest moments in Buckeye history.
It was just the funnest, most enjoyable game that I've ever played in. It was just that special time, and I think we all strive to have as coaches, players, and fans. That was it.
I think it was a total team effort, and everyone was able to take part in the celebration, and everyone was able to accept thanks and rewards for a good team victory.
There was no better feeling after a football game than that.
There's nothing I've ever felt like that before, especially when you float off the field. Some people was walking, but I was actually floating.
Out of all the football games I ever played in, that was the ultimate team victory because every aspect of the game, offense, defense, special teams, coaches, it all came together and formed a perfect game.
The glory and excitement of the Buckeyes' 1985 win over Iowa proved to be short-lived. Just 2 weeks later, the Buckeyes themselves were upset by Wisconsin 12-7 in the Horseshoe. It was a swift and stunning reminder that in college football, on any given Saturday, anything is possible. For Buckeye Classics, I'm Archie Griffin. Thanks for watching.